Hello, Void. Fibierzo, once more, and continuing on and on. Through the month, we're making okay progress on my video game tie-ins, and continue right along into the Resident Evils. Resident Evil Extinction, Part 3, and out of all the ones I have seen, not counting the CG ones, of this series, my least favorite one. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. Honestly, this one just, despite it having an interesting blend of Resident Evil and, I don't know, Mad Max, it just felt dull compared to the other ones. I mean, that could just be coming off of the over-the-top action from Apocalypse, and then getting down into the absurdity next time of Afterlife. That, well, this one just kind of falls a little flat. Okay, so let's just get into the plot here. It's umpteen years after Apocalypse. It doesn't say exactly how many, it seems to hint about 5 years, I think. Maybe. Sort of? Not sure. But that's the impression, it's like 3 to 5, somewhere in there. And, well, despite them eradicating the Raccoon City at the end of Apocalypse, that didn't do it. The infection still spread. No explanations given for how the infection got out and spread. It did. That is one of numerous problems I have with this film. It just makes the last film feel a little bit more pointless by just saying, nope, didn't work, more. Without giving any reason why. So, Alice is now on her own, riding her motorcycle out through the desert like you do, while Claire Redfield has her own caravan, working on finding a safe place for her and her now very big extended family, which includes LJ and Carlos Oliveira from the last film. Okay, so a couple of returning faces there. And Umbrella Corp is still trying to track down Project Alice after she vanished. And, well, once the two groups meet, in the middle of a giant infected crow issue, they realize that they have to deal with Umbrella as well as try to find that safe space. Alice gives them a heading of going to Alaska before she barrels in to confront the scientist that's been dogging her for the first 3 films and make some threats to going after Umbrella in general. This film feels really more transitional than anything. Like, the plot is thin. It's 2 groups just traveling, they come together, they realize there's someone bad around, one person goes off to deal with them, and they just keep traveling. That's about it. And not to mention, this film is just beige. It is a very drab-looking film. They go to Las Vegas, and it's all brown. It's just... That is the exact coloration of the film. This. Brown. Beige. Drab. Not much in terms of colors coming out of this one. So, I've got other problems with this movie. So, Jill Valentine, from the last movie, was before riding with Alice and Carlos Oliveira. She's not here. No explanations given for where she is. I know where she is. They couldn't get her actress back because she was busy filming Aragon. So, she's gone. Which I'd be okay with if they addressed it. They do not. The young girl, Angie, I think her name was, is gone. They don't address what happened to her at all. So it seems like we missed a lot here. Oh, and LJ, one of the returning characters, meets back, then with Alice meets back up the group. They don't interact at all. She just interacts with Carlos. Okay. Her and Carlos had some good chemistry. We're getting along well last time. But there's no reaction at all from LJ. So it doesn't really give a. Then they give a very loose reason for why she was separated from him before. That Umbrella was tracking her, and so she had to leave. But they don't explain what happened to Jill. They don't explain what happened to little Angie. Yeah, nothing there. I know Jill comes back in the next film, I believe. But it'd be nice to at least get some acknowledgement for continuity's sake. It felt like they didn't know what they were doing anymore, so they just started doing things and kind of skimped the details. Okay, so the confrontation with Dr. Ashford at the end was okay. He pretty much becomes the tyrant from the games, but it just amounts to a lot more CG splooge than the Nemesis of the previous film looked a lot better. It was more practical effects. It was more of an intimidating creature. Tyrant in this just seems flat. And the ending fight against it didn't really hold the weight that the Nemesis fight had. There's maybe like 4 set pieces in this whole movie. Alice driving through the desert and finds a bunch of raiders and fights them. Completely pointless. Moving on. Then there's the undead birds, which they tried to make it this big thing, but just a CGI swarm of crows really wasn't doing it to me. I mean, they even feature kind of that on the cover there. It wasn't tense. And there's a big thing with a box full of super zombies because, of course, that scene was okay. That was kind of the highlight of the film. And then the ending to do against the tyrant, which, again, he doesn't really feel like much of a threat. He's got some interesting implications at the very end, which were interesting for how it could continue on, but for the most part, this one just really doesn't do it for me. I mean, it was cool seeing Claire Redfield and their interpretation of her, and she works. But she's the only new addition of this that really does. So I've been kind of torn about where to put this in my MacGuffins. I mean, for me, Apocalypse was a better film, which I rated a 3. But I also just watched Dante's Inferno, which I gave a 2. It's better than that, but worse than Apocalypse. But the more I've been talking and thinking about this one, this one pretty much felt like Resident Evil tried to rip off both Mad Max and Day of the Dead with trying to teach the zombies. So I have to probably drop this one down to a 2 MacGuffin. For me, this one's the low point of the series. Which, it had potential. It just didn't get the follow-through. I want to know what happened to the characters that aren't here. Particularly with how much of a point Alice was of trying to protect that little girl. In one of the last scenes of Apocalypse, spoilers, she pretty much takes a bunch of debris for her. And we do see the little girl at the end, knowing that she survived and is okay, and they all ride off together. I had read somewhere that I guess the girl, like in the novelization, apparently the kid died. Would have been nice to know that in the main series here, since they built her up as an important character, only to just forget about her. I don't think they reference her once in the rest of the series. For how much weight they put on her in that one movie, it seemed like Alice was going to have some sort of important connection with her. No, it's gone. After this is when the series really starts getting crazy and over the top again. So this one just feels like trying to shift into that. It's also based less around the games than any of the other ones, since the games don't go full apocalypse, to use the title of the last one. But yeah. So this is where it really jumped off the rails and started feeling less like the Resident Evil series, game series. Also, Alice developing more telekinesis. They touched on that a little at the end of Apocalypse, but here they go lead full into it, and they continue to make her the most OP character possible for their self-insert OC, I guess. But again, can be fine, but this is where it really starts getting ridiculous. As before, I said in the earlier ones, I don't mind Alice as a character. But here is where it starts getting, okay guys, she's cool, but she doesn't need to be this most special that can be. Alright, that's about it on this one. I think I'm going to keep alternating films into the Resident Evil, just so I don't burn out completely on them. But watching them in this short succession does help me keep track of who's supposed to be who a little bit better. Though they do change the actor for Wesker between this movie, which, yes, Albert Wesker actually finally appears. Not that you really know it's him without them kind of vaguely saying. He doesn't seem much like Wesker. I think they do a better job in the next film portraying him. But hopefully, I remember liking the next one better. I think that was Afterlife, because I think Retribution comes in after that. So this is why I don't mind numbers in my sequels. Helps sometimes, especially when there's a lot of them and they don't make any coherent sense. Like, okay, Resident Evil, then there's Apocalypse, and then there's Extinction, I guess that comes after the Apocalypse, and then Afterlife. That I can kind of follow the chronology for. But then you get into Retribution, which now we're just putting words. And then the final chapter, which comes at the end. And when you mix in the CG movies with Damnation and Degeneration, which sound like they could fit in the middle of these, but have nothing to do with this continuity. Oh well. I'm just nitpicking now. So next time, I don't know. I've still got a pile of adaptations. See what I can get to. Have a good night.